My friends, what's up? I would like to brainstorm a little bit on this China turmoil, Delist, V structure, DD Delist, situation. So we as investors in Chinese stocks, for some of us, I have like very big exposure in Chinese stocks. Mainly I'm investing in NIO and XPeng. Okay, NIO, I started to invest when it was $12. XPeng, I invested at $60. Then I averaged down to about $35. And these are very big exposures for me. So right now we have this pressure coming from China, coming from US on the delisting of the Chinese companies. Let's see what this practically means and how can it and where it can bring us, okay? So right now we see the DD delist. I think that DD delist is a perfect example of what we as investors in Chinese stocks should fear, okay? Remember that DD has a lot of data, number one. Number two, it was asked by the Chinese government not to IPO in US. They didn't listen to the Chinese government and listed. Right now they have to delist. So they didn't listen to the Chinese government recommendation, and now they are paying for it, and the investors are also paying for it. Let's see where is where is the bottom of all of this story, okay? So right now, DD delist will be a very good situation for us to see how the delist is happening practically, So as I said, there are three cases that can happen with DD or with the delist in general. First, the company can be bought at the IPO price. In case of DD, it's very good because the price was high and then the stock just tanked. But for companies like NIO, XPeng, and most of them, the IPO price is much lower than today's market price. So that would be very bad for us. If China would delist and offer us the IPO price for today's market price, okay, that's number one. Case number one. Case number two, they can reorient from US to Hong Kong. So they can keep the V structure, because remember that V structure, Chinese company trade via V structure on US market and Hong Kong market. So Hong Kong is considered as an investment place or platform for foreigners, and companies are listed there through a V structure. So basically, if they move from US to Hong Kong via the V structure and just transfer all the US stock into Hong Kong, this is probably the best case scenario, okay? Let's call it the best case scenario, moving to Hong Kong. Then in this case, we don't have a problem. This situation will be topped, the bottom will be bottomed. And we know that even if the list happens, it will, the companies will be brought to Hong Kong and there is no problems. The only problem that can still remain is that US can impose sanctions on brokers not to trade on Hong Kong. Why? Because they will lose money on US trading, on US platforms. So this is another risk, but this time not coming from China, but coming from the US. So that's case number two. Case number three is just China basically screwing all the investors, but I don't believe that it will be possible. It's not smart, because there's a lot of trading agreements and China would probably lose more than they would gain by doing that. So If we look on the news that happened, that came out with Didi just yesterday or even today, is that they are they are preparing the delisting for HK, for Hong Kong. This is what Didi said, and basically we can see that the best scenario is taking place for the delist. And what is going to happen with Didi after is that it will be allowed to relaunch the applications by the year end. So imagine what will happen with Didi price once they're trading in Hong Kong. So if they keep the V structure, they trade in Hong Kong, not taking to the mainlands, and they will be allowed to operate normally, relaunch the application, by year end. This will be a huge gain for Didi, number one. And number two, we will see how far the situation can go with the Chinese Communist Party, basically. So we will see that probably if this happens with Didi, that will happen with other companies that don't comply in US. And maybe China will do, it will be like a negotiation process where China will say, okay, Baba, we don't want to comply. Tencent, we don't want to comply. All the maybe Neo, maybe Xpeng at some point as well, but right now they're not as big enough. Didi, it's not a question even of complying, but they have to take them back because they didn't listen to the party. Party said you cannot do the IPO just as of now. They ignored it, so they got delisted. So basically, if you think about it, the situation is not that bad. We will see what's happening with the Didi delist right now, how it will go. And right now, we just received the news that Cathie Wood bought for the first time Xpeng in her robotic ETF. So why is she doing that? Because Xpeng is executing, because Xpeng is putting a lot of money into the research and development, and they're working a lot on the robotaxi, basically, on the self-riding applications. So this is a very good sign that among this turmoil, ARK Invest, even if they didn't invest a lot of money, they only invested like 13 million, but I think that this is just the beginning. I think that they will take a very big position, because if it all sums out to the discount you will have in the Chinese stocks and the value, basically, and the risk you have on the Chinese stock. So if you compare Lucid and Xpeng, for example, I know you will say that, yes, Lucid sells cars at $140,000 and Xpeng at $40,000. But in any ways, let's compare it to, I don't know, there's actually no company except Tesla which would produce 40,000 cars, $40,000 cars as of now. But let's compare it to Rivian, for example, which right now is at like 100 billion, and you have Xpeng at 40 billion, and Xpeng already produces 100,000 cars, and next year will probably produce 200,000 cars, and Rivian will produce only like 50,000 or 25,000 cars. So this is the premium, the discount you're paying for the Chinese company, which is Xpeng, for the risks you have of the delisting, of the V structure, and it's up to you to know if you're willing to hold the Chinese stocks at such a discount, or hold the Lucid and Rivian at such a premium price, So I can tell you what I'm doing right now. I sold part of my Xpeng shares at $55. I call this trimming, and I bought back yesterday at $45. So this, I really believe in Xpeng. I think that they will not get delisted, or even if they will, it will put to rest this delisting regulatory issue because they will be listed in Xpeng, in Hong Kong via the V structure, and this question will no longer, they won't be this question anymore. The only risk I see is, as I said, the sanctions from US in terms of trading the Chinese stock, but I will be able to trade, I think, through the country I am in right now, and it will be highly discounted, of course, if that happens, but I think that it's totally worth it at this price. In terms of NIO, they have to do a list on Hong Kong. I'm not persuaded by their execution. Of course, right now they're doing the NIO Park, but NIO Park will only make 300,000 cars. I mean, I saw in the news from 3,000 to 1 million maybe cars. If they make 1 million in this factory, that will solve all the NIO problems, But as for the time being, I think that Xpeng and NIO are not big enough to be delisted, and even if they don't comply, and Xpeng said that they did already comply with the US regulations, I think that even if for some reason China tells them not to comply, not to give information, and to be delisted to Hong Kong, because for China it's good to build a bigger Hong Kong, platform, trading, exchange, than to leave it to US. But they will have to leave something to US for, to find this balance. So I believe in the balance. I believe that the solution, not the solution, but both China and US right now are negotiating. I believe they will find this golden middle, and just basically take Didi, take Tencent, take Baba, the biggest companies. They will take it to Hong Kong, probably the list from US, but that will not pose a problem because they will do it through a transfer of shares from US to Hong Kong, and not buy at the IPO price or screw investors, So that will be the problem solved. And then I think that NIO and Xpeng, if they comply, they will get to stay also on the US market. If they don't comply, they will get delisted and be on Hong Kong market. But I don't think that China will ban the V structure, But the risk remains in any case, and we have this risk, and our question is, are we willing to bear this risk for such a discount or not? For the time being, I think that this discount is pretty good, and that's why I'm hodling all my shares. Maybe 20% I will trade, because I will use the volatility. But that's my basic thoughts on this China turmoil. Tell me what you think in comments. Like if you liked the video, and see you in the next one.